but we will look into that for a future Webstival. So we've had the, what have we had? We've had the icebreaker, appetizer, starter. So now we're on to the main course. Hello, Daniela. So Daniela Jakob from the German Climate Service Centre. I'll pass the virtual floor over to you if you're ready to take us through the next session, Mission Board Adaptation to Climate Change. Is that okay, Daniela?
Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to join you today and to present to you what we have worked on. The mission, the current vision and mission of the Mission Board on Climate Change Adaptation and Societal Transformation. I am sharing my screen.
We can see the screen.
Which is good.
Yep, good.
So, you have heard this morning already about the Horizon Europe missions. You know that there was this effort in the last, I would say, 12 months to come up with mission areas, and there have been worked, and now we have the, I would say, semi-final drafts of the deliverable. And I would like to tell you a little bit about the mission in which, the mission board in which I was involved. And you see here our major headline is Accelerating the Transition to a Climate Prepared and Resilient Europe. And I guess you know that's very important. So the Horizon Europe missions intended to achieve ambitious and inspirational goals. There are 5 mission areas, as you can see here. The adaptation to climate change, including societal transformation, is the one I would like to talk about today. There is the other one called climate neutral and smart cities, healthy ocean, seas, coastal and inland waters, cancer and soil health and food. The 5 areas have been discussed by the European Parliament and decided on, and then there was a process to find experts working in those mission boards, and I will show you who worked with us over the last several months. The board got the task to come up with clear direction. So with a mission which is targeted, measurable and time-bound, with impact for society and policy making, and this is very, very important to the entire process, but also to implementing the mission, engage citizen in co-design, co-creation, co-implementation, co-evaluation, and what else you can think about doing together. The members here are the members of the mission board on climate change adaptation. The lead, the chairpersons, each board has a chairperson. Ours is Connie Hedegaard. She's doing a fantastic job to bring together what we were excitedly talking about and discussing. And you can see, if you look through the names, it is a large variety of experts from science, from industry, public areas, and it's very interesting to discuss. So the experts, 75 experts in total, 15 for each board, have been elected after a process where more than 3,000 experts have been nominated. And I think this was discussed, and you have heard about this, I guess, at the ECA meeting last year in Lisbon, where the Commission explained the process. So now we have the first version of the vision, and I'm presenting this to you because we have now opened, and all missions have done this, opened a dialogue process. Of course, there were dialogue processes before, but now with this semi-draft, semi-final draft, I don't know how to call it exactly, it's not final, but it's almost final. We would like to get your feedback now to understand if what we have thought through makes sense, what we missed. Are there gaps? Are there important parts missing? Is it at all usable, what we're thinking about? I'm not so sure that we have to discuss, is it doable? I guess it is challenging, and what's doable is always a challenge. But it's very important that you get engaged in this process. And if you like, we can discuss it today, but we can also discuss it via email. And the input is needed soon. So Climateurope could, as this network, could come up with a joint input, or individuals. The next board meeting is on 1st of July, and ideally I would get your major comments with me to bring it into this board meeting, because we have to hand over our final mission by beginning of September. So the idea is to turning the urgent challenge of adapting to climate change into an opportunity, and an opportunity to make Europe more resilient, climate prepared, and fair. And with this, we thought we can do this based on 3 main pillars. So by 2030, the mission will prepare Europe to deal with climate disruptions, assist all citizens, communities, and regions in better understanding and prepare for managing climate risks, accelerating the transition to the future we want, and build deep resilience. So these 3 major building blocks are within this mission of adaptation to climate change. Accelerating to the transition to the future we want. Here the idea is supporting 200 European communities and regions in co-creating visions and innovation pathways, as well as developing solutions and enabling conditions for transformative adaptation. So you see here already in the second block that the first block is on the, I would say, data and knowledge sharing and information side. The second already is in the co-designing, and in developing solutions, ideas, and innovative products, which then can be implemented. And with this, the idea is to build resilience by scaling up actionable solutions, and you heard about the Horizon 2020 Green Deal calls, triggering societal transformation through 100 deep demonstrators. So you see it here, the idea. So in order to prepare Europe at large for climate disruptions, and this encompasses all regions, all communities, all sectors, all cities, we would like to have 2 types of test beds where we accelerate the transition to a resilient future in a way that we can get transferable knowledge and information, and that we can use the 100 demonstrator as kind of test regions, case study regions, test beds to trigger the transformation. Let's talk a little bit about the targets. I will not go through all of the text. You can get this PowerPoint after the talk if you like, and you can also download the information from the mission board webpage at the European Commission. So the idea is that by 2030, all local administrative units and regions will have access to climate risk profiles and enhanced early warning systems for all relevant risks. And they will have adopted comprehensive climate risk management plans. In order to reach these targets, we have to do a lot, of course, and 2030 is tomorrow. So this means that we share our knowledge, that we have transparent data systems, that we have common understanding about climate risk profiles, that we are in a constant dialogue with local communities to find out which hazards they are vulnerable to, but also that they understand what preparedness means for them in terms of early warning systems, but also in terms of preparedness to climatic changes in the future. To accelerate the transition, our target is that 200 European communities and regions will have developed their own transformative vision, co-created adaptation pathways, co-designed and tested actionable solutions, and created favorable conditions for societal transformation. In doing so, of course, the role of climate services and the constant dialogue, I'm not talking about transfer, I'm talking about a two-way dialogue between climate science, climate service, and local communities is important. So the idea here is, of course, to come up with I would say, blueprints, which we then can use and spread through the entire European region. And the third one in the target for the Build Deep Resilience is that by 2030, 100 deep demonstrations have scaled up actionable solutions that have triggered societal transformation, building deeper resilience. So here really the question is how to create impact at scale, how to create cross-border value, and how to foster systemic and citizen-centered co-evaluation, measuring progress made, assessing what has been accomplished, and communicating the process and outcome. And I think here for the Climateurope community, this is important because we haven't really worked out what we have to measure in order to evaluate the success of climate services. So is the success of climate service that they have been used and that they have helped to develop an adaptation option? And is the success, what is the success of the adaptation option implementation? What do we have to measure? We cannot just measure, I would say, flooded square meter, but maybe that's the measure we need. Maybe we need a measure of saved life, or we need a measure of in economy, or all of this. So there's a lot for this community to think through. In order to do those, we of course talk about the needed enabling environment. And I mentioned this before. There was a long and very deep discussion on the knowledge and data sharing. Access to data, knowledge, digital services is key, and it will not go without this. So we have to make sure that things are comparable, that everyone who would like to look into the data can get the access. Local economies and economic resources are very important, and the cultural context, the financial and the local cultural context is important for the implementation of adaptation, but also for the societal transformation. And especially here, we have to be inclusive and go towards a fair transition. No one should be left behind. No region should be left behind. And for this, the shared learning and policy coherence is very important. So you see there's a fully systemic approach in the mission, where not only the political and administrative structures and policies and governance aspects are looked at, but where also the interplay between the local actor and the understanding of the citizen engagement and the success of the citizen to work towards these new lifestyle in Europe is needed and can be seen and can be lively and positively developed further. So the enabling environment, I think, lays the ground for an inclusive and fair transition. And the strengthening of local economies and local security is very important. So in the mission draft text, which you can see, you will find, of course, more background of what we have developed in the last 12 months. Key community systems, which we are seeing and having discussed, and you are probably a bit surprised by using the word community and regions. But now I have to go one back. Where do I do this? This way. We have discussed a lot, should we talk about geographical regions only or sectors only? But when we came to all these societal transformational challenges, it was very clear that we have to talk about communities, and we cannot just stick to political borders. So the systems to look at are community and social infrastructures, health and well-being, nature, biodiversity, and ecosystem services, water, of course, as a cross-cutting element, and rural landscapes and food systems. So for the social infrastructure, the challenge is to regenerate community and social infrastructure, renovating public spaces and facilities for inclusive, healthy, and climate-resilient neighborhoods. Saving lives and well-being means protecting human health and well-being, prepare communities to stay healthy in a changing climate. And we are currently living in this COVID-19 crisis. So this is very important. Then we see the, I'm almost done. Then we go to the restoring nature, biodiversity.
J'ai pas compris le programme.
Sorry, can you mute your phone? I'm sorry. Somebody is talking. Can you mute your phone? Thank you.
Paraleos.
Normalement, ça finit pas avant 14 h.
Paraleos,
Et même
could you mute,
tu
please?
continues après. Donc, vaut mieux pas que tu comptes sur moi.
Paula, can you mute Paraleos, please?
Quand tu pars, tu me dis.
I'm not sure that I agree to what he's saying. Okay, so let's go back one slide. So very important is the role of nature, biodiversity, and ecosystem services in the context of climate change and mitigation. And so harnessing the power of nature is what is needed to boost nature-based solutions and green-blue multi-purposes infrastructure investments and ecosystems. And again here, climate services play an important role. The water management, rethink water management. What does it mean to fostering innovation towards smart, reliable, and efficient access to water and reduced vulnerability to water-related risks? We have heard a lot about droughts or drought-driven shortages of water. So you see there in the mission, and I only gave you a few examples, are the major systems and sectors which we are looking at. The rural landscapes and sustainable food system. Here, of course, is a connection to one of the other mission boards, which is looking at soils and food systems. So we have to shift to resilient food systems, and you will see the challenges which are associated with this. Let me now talk a little bit about the citizen engagement. I have 2 more slides and then I'm done. The citizen engagement is key for the Horizon Europe missions. It is an integral part and is understood as a deliberative democracy and as a new way and a new form of governance. Of course, currently we are at the co-design phase, and if we distinguish 3 phases in the stakeholder engagement, when it comes to implementation, of course, we need the co-implementation. And when it comes to the evaluation, the co-assessment. So for the co-design where we currently are, and this is why I discuss this with you, the main goal of the co-design phase is to receive inputs from citizens on some key objectives of the mission, to generate comparable and consistent results across citizen engagement events. We came out with a few questions which are related to climate information and awareness. So do we have enough information available? Is it usable? Is it useful? Is the quality good enough? Then there, of course, we would like to seek for comments, asks and answers to the vision. Is it including the important key systems, which I have presented here? And then, of course, what do we need to come up with transformative adaptation solutions? This is the timeline. I said before that we have to hand over in September the finalized proposed mission. We have new 2 or 3 co-design sessions which are organized by mission board members. Then at the European Commission's R&I days in September, we will hand over the mission to the Commission. And then there is in October a European Week of Regions, where there will be sessions dedicated to the mission. Now, before I close now, let me say a few more words. So first of all, the missions are not defining the calls of the Horizon Europe research program. The missions are seen as an umbrella area in which, through the usual ways, the normal ways the calls will be built on. We are not included in the process of defining calls or call texts at all. None of the mission board members is. Second, you might have been surprised that I mostly talk about adaptation and not so much about mitigation. Yes, this is true, but we see adaptation only as an efficient and effective way if it also takes into account mitigation. So although the Parliament gave us the title Climate Change Adaptation for the Mission Board area, from the first moment on, we discussed that it's very important to have both adaptation to climate change and mitigation of climate change in one hand. And we have a lot of text in our written report to explain how important this is and that we see this as one big entity. In addition, I'm pretty sure you're aware of the fact that in the practitioners area and stakeholders and lay people area, the word adaptation is not so strongly bounded to adaptation to climate change as it is in the scientific climate science arena. So many people talk now about adapting to the new lifestyle, adapting to a carbon neutral Europe, adapting to the new requirements. So all of us are motivated now to formulate more precisely what adaptation to or adaptation of means in their specific context. And I think this is important to realize, and we will try to do our best to be as clear as possible. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Daniela. So now it's time for discussions and questions. Somebody is typing. Can somebody mute your mic? There is background noise. Daniela, when you were talking, there were a lot of questions for you, and they are now in the chat. Let's just go through it, and maybe you can answer some of them. So when you're talking about Horizon, about the missions and about the Europe mission report and about the Europe, do you refer to the European Union only, because there are a lot of participants from the countries outside of European Union?
I would say no. Of course, the European missions are I would say developed and discussed with the diversity which we have in Europe, and considering and including the different cultural backgrounds in Europe, and they are laid out for European activities, but with a clear, and there is a part in the report with a clear international angle on it. So the idea is, of course, to have a strong focus in Europe, but also to build bridges to the global south and to other continents. So it is not Europe only.
Okay, thank you. Roger, are you online? Because you wrote you would like to discuss with Daniela some issues. Roger?
Yes, thanks very much. Hi, Daniela. Thank you very much for the presentation. I very much enjoyed listening to it. I've listened to it before, but I enjoyed it again. It's greater clarity. But this is one issue I have in the chat there that it's not explicit. I don't see explicit recognition of the fact that in order to, we're not talking about making a transition. We're talking a transformation. We're talking about making transitions over time. And therefore, there's a strong need. The challenge that will be out there is not only to is to allow the development and the capability to address the fact that change and continuous improvement is required. You know, we will have to abandon some of the measures that we put in place. There will be the wrong ones, but they will be the right at the time, but become the wrong ones. And I think how about updating and introducing new actions. And it's not explicit. I don't really see that referenced in this, and I think it's a significant challenge. Climate services will play and needs to play in this area, and it's not. It's not playing as well in that area as it could, sorry. And I'm just wondering, was that part of the discussions, and is it just implicit, or as I think it needs to be, it should be more explicit?
So it was in the discussion. It's probably good to be mentioned. So if you can drop me an email to the EUMB-Jacob email address, or to my normal email address, so that I don't forget to take this with me, because we have discussed the try and error, or the right for the time, but and the changes which are needed is explicitly in context of political and structural settings in the governance fields.
Yes, very much so.
And this, of course, asks for a democratic development in the future, and from now on, constantly, I would say. And that is a big challenge, because to do this in the context of the diversity of the European culture, this, of course, is from a governance aspect a very large challenge. Let's go to the more easy things like practices or let's say data or methods which are not suitable anymore. This is in the mission, and don't forget, the mission is not a roadmap.
I know.
Someone has to develop a roadmap now, and I assume, I hope, that there will be a possible call for such a development of a strategic plan and a roadmap to fill the mission with life. So we were only tasked to build this big umbrella. What we see in which areas, which I would say on a kind of a meta level, which action is needed to achieve in 2030 a more resilient and climate neutral Europe, a better prepared Europe for shocks, for unexpected, but also a bit more independent Europe, and a safe and wealthy and inclusive life. So I think it's important that now the scientific community starts to bring the meat to the bones. So I would say we are the bones, and you have to bring the meat to it. So.
Thank you, Daniela. Sylvie, I think your question was also directly connection. How does mission board works? Do you get the answer on your question? So because Sylvie asked. Yeah.
Yes, hi, Lola. Yeah, so part of the question was answered is the fact that, yeah, it's not a roadmap and there will be calls, then it's just an umbrella. At the same time, what I'm a bit worried is how does that fit? The mission is very applied, and in fact, there is indeed a need to have this citizen change and societal change, but at the same time we still need to have some more upstream and to continue improving, for example, the climate information, the climate models, the climate impact. So how we will make sure that there is this continuous stream between the more upstream and the more downstream. So that's part of my question. And the other side is the link with the information system that wants to be put in place with Destination Earth. But maybe my question is also to Annika, not necessarily on me, Daniela.
Yeah. So the all missions are stretching from the, let's say, fundamental basic science part to the implementation. I have now focused a bit more to the applied and implementing side, but there is a large part in it where it is clearly stated that in order to be able to do this, we have to have the information which we need for this, the data, the knowledge, the models, the methods, the quality control systems, and so on. So when we developed this, actually we developed a a figure, which is now not in this deliverable, but it's in our minutes. You can go to the website and then you go to it's all public, it's all transparent. And then you go to the meetings, and then you go to the minutes of the meetings. And there are figures in it where we have on the one side all the data and information and digitalization and the destination Earth connection. And then we have on the other side the society was taking care of the common goods. And then we have in the middle between those parts the meaningful knowledge, because we have to, in a dialogue between the societal actors, let's say looking after and taking care of the common goods and boundaries and challenges, and the knowledge and data available are the ones which has to be established. We have to have a constant dialogue and interlinkages and an exchange so that we make meaningful knowledge out of what we have, data, knowledge, information, and so forth, so that we can turn this into action and implementing, and so that we can trigger what Roger just said, trigger the transition, because that it will be hundreds of transformations in this transition period. And of course, there will never be an end of this period. And that's a bit the problem. We do not really know, we know where we're starting from, but we do not have a very clear global view on the end point. And that is what the local communities have to develop, the visions, how they would like to live in 2050 and 2030 to 2050. And that's dependent on the local culture and the local context. And then this helps us to bring together all the thousands of transformations which are needed to fulfill the transition to a better prepared Europe, a fair Europe, and a resilient Europe.
Okay. Thank you. Mark, I see your question about adaptation and mitigation, but if you don't mind, I would like to give a floor Fabio, because Fabio asked Daniela. Hello, Fabio. So yeah, is in the plan of the mission to put the local and regional authorities in the driving seat of the Horizon Europe? Fabio, are you here?
Yes, I am. My question also goes along the way of what Alessia is asking. I just went back from the commission from EASME to my local authority, and I'm in the Meteo Center of my local authority, and we have to build our adaptation plan for a region of 5 million people. And I see my region, I would say, is not the front runner of Italy. We are the second runner. And what we are capable of doing right now is to evaluate the climate impact, but we are not able to evaluate the impact, the full impact on agriculture or hydrology yet. And we hope we get to that. Our front runner regions can, but we stopped there. So the missing link is that we are not able to evaluate the costs of inaction, even for the front runner regions. At the same time, though, I see projects made fully by the local authorities. We have a local project, a live project run by the municipality, and their approach is completely different. They say they are mapping who is doing what in the local authorities to be able to mainstream actions. So you see, their problem is not only the data, but also the administrative barriers. So until we proceed, while in the mission we should point to the mainstream knowledge and data, and we still have some gaps, particularly on evaluating cost of inaction, I believe one part of the mission would heavily invest in local communities being in the driving seat of the project, because they will put the angle in completely different way. And only in this way you will have the merge that, Daniela, you're speaking about. So how do we put in the driving seats these local authorities?
So Fabio, thank you very much. This is exactly what we're aiming for. So that's why the role of the local authorities, the role of even each European individual is at the heart of the mission, because it is impossible to get a transition or transformation without bringing all people or developing the enabling environment, which we were talking, which I have talked about a little bit here, to help support and yeah, to help and support the local changes. So there, we have discussed several different mechanisms. Even we discussed microfinancing, so different financing mechanisms. And I saw here Rasmus talking about freely available data exchange and so on. I cannot read all of your comments, which are great, and I hope I can get the comments later. So I hope someone is saving them and sending them to me, so that I can take all your comments with me to the next meeting. So, but the idea is really to have these, the change should be driven from bottom up, but it needs a balance in some let's say guidance, like roads or something, and guidance and help to do this. And it's fully clear that you said some regions, some local communities have the capabilities, others need help and change, and that's in the mission. And that's, I haven't talked about this yet, but the missions are a part of the Green Deal. It is not the idea that the missions with implementing and everything are only financed through the research budget. And this is why all DGs, almost all DGs were part and listened to the development of these missions. The idea is that, for example, regional structural funds would also help to finance in individual regions the action needed. So we also discussed with the financing parts, we discussed with the disaster risk reduction part. So the idea is to, at least that's how I understood it. And of course, we never know what will happen, but how I understood it is that there is a dedicated research part to it, because we do not know what we do not know all what we are asking for here, and not everything is available. So there is a research and development part in it, but there's also an implementation and a solution part in it, or a solution and implementation part in it, and that needs finances from other strands of from the European Commission. So that's the idea, and that's how I understood it.
Thank you very much, Daniela. There is a question: should we have 5 minutes more for discussions, or we continue discussions with the other topic? Paula, what do you think? So then just one question more. Daniela, there is a short question about from Mark. Let me see, where is it? Okay. What is the balance between adaptation and mitigation in the mission board?
Yeah, this is a typical question which we get all the time, and that's because the title is so misleading. Let's put it this way. So in all visions and mission ideas in the document which we are writing, there is, I would say, a clear balance, and both are equally important. I would say, for us as a board members, when we wrote the text. Obviously the discussion to define those 5 mission board areas, areas in which missions should be developed, the information which we got from the member states, and there are actually for each member, for each mission board, there is a board for member states representatives. So we were also in dialogue with the representatives for the member states while we were developing this, and we took into account their wishes, their concerns, and their needs. So, and there at the beginning, obviously, there was the idea that it's more important now to get the climate change information and to understand to which hazards we have to adapt. While the missions were discussed and developed, it clearly changed a little bit we cannot adapt to everything if we are not immediately acting in limiting global warming. So the understanding in this, I would say, political surrounding arena, which we were discussed and in dialogue with, was also a bit changing. We as experts started on during our very first meeting in September last year with a clear statement and said, it is impossible in this board to only discuss adaptation without mitigation. Of course, there was the idea that mitigation will be a bit more discussed in the city board, the smart cities, where also the energy is part. And there are, of course, other activities in the European Commission which are more related to the Energiewende and change in energy systems and carbon neutrality. But for us, they are both equally important, and we stated very clearly, and I understood already that it's not clear enough in the draft. I understood it also when we discussed it, Roger, when we discussed it on Tuesday with the JPI Climate tab, that it's obviously not clear enough phrased in yet that there is no adaptation action without a mitigation part in it. So this is very important, and I will take this as a very strong statement again with me to make it a bit more clear.
Thank you very much, Daniela. So unfortunately, I need to stop here. So it's a bit pity so that we can't continue discussion with you, but you can take all the questions with you because we save the chat, so you can think about it. Yeah.
So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. As I said, please go either through your representatives or send an email to mission board members or send an email to me, but we really need your input. But we need this until, I would say, 28th of June, ideally, because 1st of July, we will discuss again what we picked up from the stakeholder consultations, and you are our scientific stakeholders partly, and partly the practitioner side. And we would like to bring this in, and we have a bit of a time pressure. So it would be great to get it as soon as possible and not in October. That's definitely too late. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So Danielle is leaving, but discussions is ongoing.